Hey guys, and welcome to the If I Were Jay Leno part 3. So so today we are going through, all the cars if money weren't an object. I mean, obviously we've already done 2 videos of this, so if you've not seen them, make sure you go back and see them. Because today we are going to be starting on the letter J and all the car brands that start with J.
Some good ones in this.
Yeah, exactly.
Hang on. I was just going to say, I thought I hadn't put the stinger in there.
No, it's fine. So, ready? So we're going to start with Jag, obviously.
Absolutely. And we're starting with a very beautiful one, aren't we, I believe?
Yes, we're starting with the Jag E-Type convertible.
What can I say about the E-Type Series 1 3.8 litre convertible, except if you don't like this car, go to Specsavers. Basically, that's all I'm going to say. This car was a 150 mile an hour, gorgeous drop-top convertible from the 60s, which was, for me, the peak of motoring. A peak of everything. I suppose steam died as well.
Yeah.
Sad times. We've got the motorway speed limits as well. But this thing was fabulous. It was affordable compared to a normal Ferrari. It was faster than the Ferraris, better to drive, better looking in every single way. And in fact, Enzo Ferrari himself said it was the most beautiful car he had ever seen.
Yeah, that's it.
I can't say much more except from, if you want a car that brakes better than it and handles a bit better, buy the Eagle Speedster. Yeah. Because you get the same body with a bit more performance.
That's all the Eagle Speedster is, And so,
but I'd have both. 2-car garage. Oh my god, I can't think of any better 2-car garage than that, except for my Lotus Carlton shoved in there. Other than that, we'll get onto that another day.
Great.
So what's next?
Yeah, so then we're on to the Jag XJ220.
By far, nowhere near the best looking car that Jag have ever made. It's not a good looking car.
No.
Well, to be honest, I actually quite like it. I think it's cool. It's a cool car. Yeah. But it's not drop dead gorgeous like the typical supercar.
It looks
the
like
good
a
thing is,
been dropped on it.
You wouldn't need to look at that body for very long, because this was the fastest car in the world at one point, I believe in 92. After the EB110, which did 212, this came out and went, I could do 217. Yeah. Between 213 and 217. And then Bugatti went, bang, and then they updated it to 218, the EB110. But this was, and I think still is, the fastest production Jag ever built.
It wouldn't make sense.
And it was a complete major failure in what they promised. They promised a V12 4-wheel drive hypercar. Yeah. It came out with V6 that was stolen from the back of an MG Metro rally car. Yeah. They bolted on 2 turbochargers, which created a lot of lag. Nowhere near as bad as Bugattis, by the way. That had 4 big turbos in the 90s, which back then it took 40 years for it to get going. And it was rear-wheel drive. So it was, when turbos happen, well, in the 90s specifically, and the 80s when turbos were a new thing. Yeah. You'd be going around a corner, the turbo would engage when the lag stopped, bang, and you just go into a tree. Yeah. But that's what happened. But the Jag was a complete major failure in what it was promised. However, made up for that by being an incredibly fast car. It was and a very good one out of that to drive as well. Just not drop dead gorgeous. I think it had the lights from it's like a Cavalier, like a Volkswagen or something. It borrowed like body parts from just random cars. It was built of plastic most of the time. The interior was a complete major downgrade. But in terms of what it was as a vehicle, Jesus, it's incredible.
Then we've got the XKR. Oh no, we've not. We've got the XJR 575.
Yes, so this is a modern Jag. However, it is unfortunately no longer in production because they got rid of the XJ recently. A couple of years back. The last hurrah was the XJR 575, which was an updated version of the previous XJR. As you can say, 575 metric horsepower, or in Queen of England, 567 bhp. There is a difference between HP and bhp. I have explained that if you want to know. Somewhere up there, you can view that video. So this was capable of about 186 or something stupid, so 60 low fours. And the thing with this car is the XJ. It looks superb for a big executive saloon. Absolutely awesome. It's got like boomerang shaped lights across the back. Not that way, like they are in a Maserati, but that way. The boot lid. Oh, it's gorgeous little saloon. I think one of the best looking saloons ever built, in the top 20 by far. Gorgeous little car. When I say little, I mean it's about 5 meters long, but it's huge. But a very good luxury car, and I think it's the one. It's the sort of luxury car that you buy with your heart, not your head.
Yeah.
It's the heart head. It's the heart, not head choice.
Yeah.
Your head would say buy an S65 or an S63 AMG or an M760 Li. Your heart says go and get a Jag XJR because that thing sounds like glorified thunder. Big V8. The other two use V12s, the S65 and the M760. And this make a racket. Jags, V8 Jags. The thing with them was before the emission stuff, which was this. You could wake up an entire country from this side of Dover.
I mean,
you could wake up people in Calais from Dover. It is that loud. It's crazy, and I love them. I think they're awesome, and that's why I'd have one, because I just think they're crazy. The thing with the Jag is, it's that sort of car where you can park on a double yellow lines and get away with it, because you own a Jag. You can go around to somebody's house one night, steal an oil painting, and when they wake up in the morning and find it's missing, they will not be disappointed or angry with you because you own a Jag. You don't have to pay for any meals. You can just go, oh no, I've forgotten my wallet, and then the girl who you go out with will pay because you own a Jag. That is what life is like with a Jag. You get away with everything.
Of course.
It's brilliant.
Then, obviously, to kind of going back to the point, the XJR.
This is the original version from the early 2000s. 400 horsepower, big V8. Bit squarer looking. It's not as good looking either, but really cool. Yeah, I like them.
Of course. Then we got the XKR.
So basically, they did the XKR, but then they turned up to 11, and they did the XKRR. So they introduced more power. It was looking at 400 now. They got rid of any speed electronic limiters. 180 mile an hour car now, which is crazy fast. Back in the early 2000s, they put a roll cage in the back, lowered it, stiffened it up, made it a sort of track going car almost. And they basically turned up to DEFCON 5 for this XKR. And it's in the old body XK as well, so I think it's a good looking car, not as nice as the one that replaced it, but still a very good looking car nonetheless. And I think it's a really cool little thing. I think it was a 4.2 V8 supercharged, but I can't remember specifically from the top of my head.
Then we've got the Jag S-Type R.
Bit of a controversial one because the S-Type has always been renowned as one of the uglier Jags, with its big snouty nose on the front. But the S-Type R I think is quite a cool car. Supercharged V8, about 400 brake, quick. And you wouldn't have to look at that grille for much longer because you'd see it in your rear view mirror for half a second before it overtakes you and you see the back end of the car, which is quite a nice angle. So yeah, quick. Reasonably good luxury car. Jag's known for their good saloons as well. To drive, it was brilliant. It was just had a big snouty nose that wasn't very nice to look at, but it's not about the looks really. Not all the time, is it really?
That's it. Then we've got the Jag Mark II 3.8.
Yep, classic saloon now. We're going back down to the 60s and 50s now. 3.8 litre straight six. The one that featured in the E-Type later in its life. These things were known as police cars, mainly. They were used as police cars because they were flipping rapid. However, people used them as getaway cars. Also, because they were so fast. Not first by modern standards, I wouldn't say that. Well, to be honest, to me, they're still first. Yeah. Because I think that an EcoBoost Fiesta is pretty quick. So 8.5 to 60. Speed about 125, 220 brake. That, for me, is pretty quick, especially for a 60s saloon or 50s saloon. Crazy fast little thing. And they're very good looking as well. So, yeah, I'd have one of those. I think they're cool. In British Racing Green with the wire wheels, obviously.
Then we've got the Jag XE SV Project 8.
Yep, so Jag's SVO department, the skunk works of motorsport, basically, got hold of the XE and thought, what shall we do with this four-door saloon? We'll open the rear doors, take the seats out, put a roll cage in. That makes no sense whatsoever, Jag. Put a big wing on the back, on the boot lid, and make it do 200 miles an hour on a four-wheel drive. However, they also then went, you can have an option so you can put the back seats back in. Yes. And you can have, with the roll cage, you will get harnesses. Yes. Which makes total sense. Alfa have done the same thing recently with the Alfa Romeo Giulia GTAM. And they've gone, right, you've got four doors here, but your rear doors, open them. Oh, it's a roll cage, and the Renault Megane RS Trophy R does that as well. But you can actually have the seats in if you want.
Yes.
But it's a 200-mile-an-hour madman.
Fair. Then we've got the Jag F-Type SVR Coupe.
Yeah, so the old style F-Type. I don't actually have the new body F-Type in this list. I'm surprised, but I think it's slightly better looking, but I wouldn't actually have one. Because I like the old SVR, which was they actually was de-restricted, the F-Type, so this one was actually capable of 200 miles an hour. Putting it into almost supercar performance categories, really. But it's a GT car, very good looking, obviously, as F-Types were. Loud, silly, and even though it was four-wheel drive, the majority of your life in an F-Type is spent going sideways, no matter what wheel is driven. Doesn't matter if it was front-wheel drive, it would spend the majority of its life going sideways. That's the F-Type life. You just got to, when you buy an F-Type, you've got to be in the mindset that you are now officially a crab.
Yes.
You're just going to live life going this way. You're like, yeah, my tyres are absolutely smoking. I'm going to be 50 quid poorer every time I go to Tesco's because my tyres are being absolutely knackered by going around the roundabout the wrong way. Well, basically sideways. But you can't help it. They can drift. You can drift them from about 12.
And then we've got the Jag F-Type SVO Project 7.
Yep, so the SVO department had a bit of a play with the F-Type. Convertible. They removed the roof completely, so it's now like a Trump's hat roof. So it's like an umbrella, basically, that you stick up yourself. They stuck the D-type sort of, you know that thing that's behind the suction thing that's behind the drive on the D-type. They sort of stuck that on as a homage to the old D-type. They put more power in it, rear drive this time, so it suffers from even worse F-type itis of going sideways. And a slightly quicker version of the rear-wheel drive F-Type, but better looking because it has no roof. Basically what we had this time.
Okay, so then we've finished off Jag there, and we're going to go on to Jeep with the Jeep Grand Wagoneer.
I will note this is the old Jeep Grand Wagoneer. However, specifically I'd have a 1991 version-ish, somewhere around that. These are the ones that are big boxy, you know, with the wooden panelling along the side of the doors.
Yes.
Horizon 3 vibes there.
Indeed, yeah.
I very much like these things. It is an old one, and they are by no means fast. They had a 5.9 litre V8, which is big. They produced at home, make sure you're all sat down, don't carry any cups of tea before you have a heart attack, 144 horsepower from a 5.9 litre V8 in the 90s. That's no excuse, Jeep. That's terrible. In the 90s. Like,
shocking.
It did about 91 and so 60 in 15.6 seconds or something.
That's bad.
Which is utterly terrible. But yeah, terribly slow car. But there's something crazy and desirable about them, and they were fabulous off-road.
Then that's all we've got for Jeep. Moving on to the Jensen with the Jensen Interceptor FF.
Is the FF on there?
Yes.
Oh, the FF is on there.
The FF
I only saw the S. The FF was a little bit of a fact. The Jensen Interceptor FF was the first mass-produced four-wheel drive car in the world. Sports car built in Britain with a Chrysler V8 that produced noise, but not very little power. But the actual FF produced 330 horsepower, so it was actually pretty nippy. And it had four-wheel drive and a body that anybody would look at and go, God, that looks good, because it's an Italian styling, I think. It was designed by Touring Superleggera, who did the DB5, I think, and I think they did the Lamborghini 350 GT, and I think they designed they've done loads of Alphas, and I think they did the Jensen, unless it was built by them. I can't remember one of those, but I know it's Italian styling. But I think the next one is the...
Yes, we're then on to the Jensen Interceptor S Resto mod.
Yes, and basically this is a Jensen Interceptor, but with the old Chrysler engine was lifted out and thrown away. Get to that. They stuck in an LS3 Corvette 6.2 litre V8, 430 odd horsepower something. This was quick. You're looking at just under 170 top end. Did 60 under 5 seconds. Manual gearbox, rear drive, that beautiful body. Resto modded. Basically, look at it like an Eagle Speedster.
Yeah.
You see what? And it was obviously because it wasn't based on an FF. It was rear driven, not 4-wheel drive. So way more fun. I'm gonna die again. No,
Okay.
I'm not.
Yeah, and then finishing J, that is actually. Moving on to K with the Kia and the Kia Stinger.
Probably one of the most underrated cars on sale at the minute because the Kia Stinger is a car that people laugh at when you talk about it because they're like, oh, it's a Kia, it's terrible. It is not a bad car at all. In fact, it's probably one of the best cars on sale at the minute. Money to performance wise. What me and Luke think it is it's the modern day Cos-Air.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah. Affordable to everyone, but it'll just walk away. Get anywhere near it. This car can do just under 170 mile an hour, whereas all the Germans are stuck at 155. They'll do 60 sub 5 seconds. Rear drive, proper laugh because the rest of its rivals are all 4-wheel drive and a bit boring. Yeah. But then it's better looking than all the rivals as well. Because like, you see them in the flesh and you go, God, that thing looks so good. If you didn't know it was a Kia, you would be so surprised that it is because it looks that good. Yeah. And yeah, I love them. They're brilliant.
Right, and then we've got the Kia K900.
Lesser known, big executive V8 saloon car that was, I think it was only on sale in America and South Korea. Yeah, not on sale in the UK. I think it's called K9 as well in some markets.
Yeah.
But yeah, pretty cool car. Quick, good looking, big executive saloon. So I don't really not much to say about that really.
Then okay, and that finishes off K. So moving on to L and Lamborghini with the Lamborghini Countach LP 5000 QV.
I think this is the definitive Lambo.
Yes.
Because it is an utterly terrible car.
Of course.
To live with. But as a Lambo, it is what a Lambo should be. Yeah. This is brilliant. Basically, if you know what the Countach is, it is the epitome of the super car. Yeah. Because it was pretty quick. The LP5000 being the fastest could do just shy of 190. Well, that's what Lambo said when they took the door mirrors off and all of the spoilers off and tapes over all the panel gaps in order to test the speed. With all the drag taken away, basically. Naughty Lamborghini. Big V12, I think it was at 5.2 litres at this stage, 455 horsepower, something crazy. And the way it looks, big wing, the scissor doors, the stupidly wide rear end. That is a proper Lambo. And to drive, it was horrific. The steering, you had to be incredibly strong to work that steering if you was ever parking somewhere. Yeah. Even going around a corner, just normally, it was painful to get that not power steering. This is before power steering. Yeah. Get that turned round. It was an absolute pain. Moving the gear lever into slot, put your clutch in, it was like trying to pull a flipping log out of the ground and put it in. And then eventually when it did slot in, you'd then have to getting it from second into third and then fourth into fifth would have been incredibly difficult and would have probably hurt. Yes. Then you come to park it, as well as the heavy steering and the terrible trying to get it into gear. It was a gated manual as well. You had the issue of, firstly you can't see out the back. The door mirrors were about this big and they were as useful as the chocolate fireguard. Yeah. Then you had the issue is, you were sat in here and the door sill's like this. So you had that next to you. What you'd have to do is open the door fully, scissor doors. You'd then have to sit on the door sill and obviously put it into reverse and drive it out while you are sat half out of the car in order to park it. It was that bad to live with. No boot space at all, and you put it on a track and it was probably quite terrible. And the Lego would probably have been a better option. However, that gives it character. Yeah. What is important in a Lamborghini?
And it's the character.
Character.
Yeah.
If the car is utterly perfect in every single way, it is not a Lamborghini.
Yeah.
Because that is not what they're designed for. Like, for example, Alfa Romeos, if you had a perfect Alfa, it wouldn't be an Alfa. The reason you buy an Alfa is because it has flaws. If you want a car with no flaws, you go out and buy a BMW. If you want the perfect driving supercar, you buy a Ferrari.
Yeah.
End of story. If you want the thing that people will look at and go, flipping heck, he's mad, you buy a Countach. And the people will look at you and go, flipping hell, he's mad. Firstly, because the car looks insane, but also because you'd be like, why the hell is that Wally driving that around daily? Yeah. Because that's the kind of car it is. But it's the epitome of a proper Lamborghini. When people say, oh my god, I love the Huracan, I go and get a flipping proper car, because that is basically just a glorified Audi underneath. Yeah. Because Audi did everything, including the styling this time, and that's what really annoys me, because it doesn't look exciting enough for a Lambo. Yeah. But it's not, it's too perfect. It's a very good car, but it detracts from the Lamborghini aspect.
Yes. Then we've got the Lamborghini Miura.
Yep, I think the first ever mid-engined production car, supercar anyway. So 350 GT was their first car, the 400 GT was the slightly faster version of that. They then shoved the 400 GT's 3.9 litre V12 in the back of the Miura, well, the mid-engine. But the really interesting thing with Lambo is it was transversely mounted. And normally a V12 will be that way. So you open the bonnet and it's facing you, like a straight engine. However, you open the rear hatch and the engine is side on. Like an inline 4. It's like a straight 4, straight 5 normally. Front wheel drive goes. But that way. Yeah. Which is the very confusing thing. So it was a transversely mounted 3.9 litre V12. But this could do 170 mile an hour. That's an understatement, because Lamborghini had the flaw. This is the good thing. It's got character, has the flaw of it would take off, front would lift at high speed, and it wouldn't match its top speed. That's a Lambo. It can't match its top speed because it lifts up at high speed and sort of it rests on the back, and it just can't match its top speed. That's a Lambo.
Yeah. Then we've got the Lamborghini Gallardo LP 570 4 Squadra Corse 2013.
Yes, I think this was the last model of high-performance Gallardo built, because I know they updated it with the facelift. I think this is the facelifted one of the really late ones before the Huracan came out in about late 13, early 14. 5.2 litre V10 remained, but this was sort of like because they did the Superleggera with 562, but I think this was the predecessor. Was it successor? The one after?
Yeah.
Successor, isn't it?
Yes, the one after.
Right, successor to the Superleggera. So you was looking at around 200 mile top end, low 360. So quick. But the thing with this is it looked like a Lambo. Stupid wings. It didn't have the silly doors, but it was... Lamborghini did the body and the brochure. So they made it look crazy. They said, oh, it's got cannons and it'll fire rockets and stuff like that. That's what they do. That's Lambo. They don't do that now. It's so sad. Yeah. But that's what they did with the Gallardo, and I love it for that. And I think that the facelift version is probably not as good looking as the pre-facelift, but with the Squadra Corsa, it looked crazy. Yep. The next one's also
yes, it's exactly it. It's the Lamborghini Gallardo LP 570 4. So just the standard version of the last one.
Well, I think this one is the Performante Spider version. This pre-facelift Gallardo, but it was the convertible version of the Superleggera. Yes. Basically, that's what it was.
Okay, fair. I didn't see. There is 2 lines. Okay, there's the Lamborghini Estaque.
Correct pronunciation as well. Well, this is the most unrealistic car on this list because they never actually put the Estaque into production. I think it was a damn good missed opportunity from Lamborghini because it was a 4-door saloon. They've never really done a 4-door saloon. I don't think they ever have done a 4-door saloon. Ferrari have done one, which is the 456 GT Venice. It was an estate, actually. Aston have done a few, and Porsche's done some. So I thought, well, Lamborghini should have done one, really. Yeah. This could do 203 miles an hour. It had a 5.2 litre V10 in prototype form. The actual working prototype, I believe, had the V10 from the Gallardo. Quick thing. Looks insane. Because it kept that Lambo style. This was Lambo before the Huracan era. Now, the modern day era of Lambo. This is the Murcielago was still roaming about back when the STK was being thought of. So it looked like a proper Lambo. You knew it was a Lambo.
Oh, wow.
And it looked sick for four-door saloon. And unfortunately, they never put it in production.
Yeah.
Big missed opportunity from Lambo. But yeah, that's the least realistic one on that list. Yeah. Even though there are some unrealistic ones on there.
Okay, and then we've got the Lamborghini LO002.
I think, what is it with the LM002 is so cool.
Oh, it's built like a tank.
It was built for the army, but it was a terrible car for the army. Yeah. So they thought, actually, I should sell it as an SUV. 444 horsepower, manual gearbox, four-wheel drive, off-road car for the family. Countach underpinners, the engine and the gearbox was from Countach, but it was front engine, obviously. Yeah. They're big boxy styling. I think in a weird way, it's quite good looking.
In a weird way.
It's sort of character. It's got that character. It's got charm. It's got an actual aspect of charm about it that I think sort of makes it stand out. It wasn't first, but it wasn't meant to be. Oh. But I love them. I think they're really cool. I think they're weirdly awesome.
Yeah. And then we've got the Lamborghini Jalpa. Jalpa.
Even though it's spelled Jalpa.
Yes. This is.
I think this is the only V8 supercar they've ever produced. And when I say supercar, I mean because it wasn't that first.
Yes.
This had a transversely, again, that way, mounted 3.5 litre V8, 250 horsepower. But it was actually not bad, actually, that 250 horsepower. Just wasn't the best to drive. Oh. But I think it's a very good looking car nonetheless. Yeah, like a Jalpa.
Okay, yeah, fair. Right, and then we've got the Lamborghini Huracan.
Oh, the Huracan's a good one. Yet again, another transversely mounted V8. I think it was a 3 litre this or something. But I think it's probably one of the best looking Lambos built. Just because it's so timeless. It looks so good. This one had 4 seats. So basically you had a bonnet with nothing in. Boot. 2 seats, engine, boot. Yeah. So the reason it was transversely mounted was so that they could fit a set of seats in front of the engine. That's why it was facing sideways. Because if they'd have had the V8 that way, you'd have never had any space for the back seats. Yeah. So this was a practical Lambo, but it went like a sports car. Yeah. Brilliant. GT car, really, more than a sports car or supercar. So, one of the very few mid-engine GTs ever built. Yeah.
Then we've got the Lamborghini 400 GT.
Yep, so the 350 GT was the first ever Lambo built. The 400 GT was a slightly more powerful version with a 3.9 litre V12. Drop dead gorgeous car, this.
Yeah, and then as you've just alluded to, then we had the Lamborghini 350 GT.
Yeah, probably one of the best looking cars they've ever built. And the first Lamborghini road car, because Lamborghini, if you did not know, are famous for tractors. They were a tractor manufacturer before they were car manufacturer. They actually still build tractors, you know. Yeah. But yeah, that was their first road car, designed by Touring Superleggera, who we mentioned earlier. Yeah. Coach builder, as well as they did the Aston DB5, another drop dead gorgeous car. Of course. And that was Lambo's first car. So. Yeah,
indeed. Right, and then we've got a final Lamborghini here that's been starred and everything. I mean, you must love this. It's the Lamborghini Huracan.
Oh no, it's not on there. Get rid of that.
Oh no, it's not on there. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Why is that? I just think, right, of all the cars you can choose from in the world to like, there are numerous better cars. Well, in fact, there are millions better cars to like than that. Yeah. And I can't even see why people like it, because I don't think it's that good looking. The Evo version, credit where it's due, the Evo one looks quite good. And the Performante is a very good car, and that is a sort of Lambo, because it's got the big wing. But the standard LP610-4, it's horrid. Yeah. It's a damn crazy bad car compared to what should be for a Lambo.
But anyway, that does indeed finish Lamborghini, and we're going on to Lancia.
Yay! We're back with character.
So we've got the Lancia Delta HF Integrale Evo. Right,
so the Lancia Delta, short name, the special HF Integrale Evo, was a homologation special rally car. So basically, it was a rally car, but they did homologation special, which means it was built for the road as well. Yep. So they sold a number of them with all the rally. Basically, a road-going version of the rally car. They did that with the Escort Corsa. They did that with the Mitsubishi Evo 6 Tommy Makina and the Celica GT4, basically stuff like that.
Okay.
This thing was the last ever production Lancia ever built by Lancia as we know them, because Lancia was then owned by the Chrysler Group. 1994, I believe it came out. It's unfortunate actually, because I think this is one of the. I think this is the best looking hot hatchback ever built.
Fair.
It is boxy, but there's something about the Delta that's so beautiful. It was 4-wheel drive, turbocharged 4-cylinder. It wasn't that powerful really. 210 horsepower. It's about the same as a modern Fiesta ST, Hyundai 20N, Polo GTI, stuff like that. But it was 4-wheel drive, 5.7 to 60. That's quicker than most hatches now. Quick, beautiful, and they are worth an absolute fortune now. This boxy hot hatch, 70 grand now for a good one. Easy, probably more than that.
Yikes.
Right, the Escort car's worth about 80-90 grand. So, there genuinely is no better car than a homologation special. In fact, the modern Focus RS is probably verging on homologation special. It's sort of the modern equivalent to the Escort Cosworth, which was a homologation special, so it's indirectly one. And that was a damn good car when it was out. In fact, it still is a fabulous car. But there's nothing better than homologation special. You can't get a car that's more fun, more as quick for the sucking either, because basically they just use sports cars and just thought, I'll just chuck them on a rally stage. So yeah, they're fabulous cars, and I would adore a Delta Integrale.
Okay, then we've got the doesn't matter. It's the Lancia Thelma 8.32.
Thema 832.
Thema 832.
8.32.
8.32.
Yeah. So the Thema was the 4-door saloon they built, but they thought, you know what, stuff it. Stick a Ferrari V8 in the front. I believe, if I'm right in saying, this was the first ever production vehicle with active rear aero spoiler on the boot lid. Boot lid mounted active aero on the wing that came up out of the boot lid. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was. The 8 stands for V8 and the 32 is 32 valve V8. There's about 240 horsepower. It's pretty nippy. Very good looking car. One of the best 4-door saloon looking saloons ever built. I think you can get them for about 30k now, 20k ish. So not too bad. Nobody near as expensive as a Delta. But yeah, good looking car. I love them. They're very cool.
No, fair.
Got that character against the M5s and stuff. Obviously.
Then we've got the Lancia Stratos.
Oh, the Stratos. Who can't love a Stratos? Beautiful car. Rally car, sports car, mid-engined. And the cockpit is about the size of a shoe. So if you're taller than about 5'6", you're going to struggle. The thing with the Stratos is, you had... all of it was left. So you drove, like... basically, the pedals were with the passenger in the left-hand drive cars. And the steering wheel was over in a hedge on your left, so you drove like this. So the pedals are here, and the steering wheel is over here. And to change gear, which was there, it involved touching the person in the passenger seat's leg. It involved man touching, basically, in order to change gear. It was a nightmare to drive, but that's it with Italian cars. Alphas are the same. They're Italian, and they don't work, but they're still fabulous. Lancia's, the Stratos was terrible to drive on a daily basis if you had a passenger. But when you did drive it, it's such a special car that you just felt that you never wanted to get out of it, because it's such a brilliant experience when you drive Lancias.
Then we've got the Lancia 037.
Yeah, the 037, another mid-engined rally car. The last ever mid-engined rally car, sadly. Because they then went, and last ever rear-wheel drive one as well, I believe. Gorgeous car, very good as well. Basically just like the Stratos, except it wasn't as badly designed in terms of the driving experience. So your pedals were slightly more straight on this time.
Of course. Then we've got the Lancia Fulvia.
Fulvia is a very interesting car. Front-wheel drive, which sounds really boring, I believe. But it's actually not. Good little rally car. Gorgeous body. Yeah, a little 1.3. They weren't that fast, but you can get 1.6 as well. They weren't that quick, but gorgeous.
Yeah. Then we've got the Lancia Delta Fiorista resto mod.
Yeah, so recently a bloke has decided he wanted to make a modern day version of the Delta. So it looks like a Delta, but with modern power. So it's like 330 horsepower. It's so expensive, but I just want one. That looks so awesome.
That sounds cool.
Yeah, when you see pictures of it when you edit this.
Yeah. Obviously, there will be one around here.
You're like,
that you'll
I want one.
Get.
Actually, to be honest, I'd rather have a normal standard Delta in red over a Futurista. Because I think you can't improve upon a genius design unless the only time a resto mod looks better than the standard car is with the Eagle and the Jag E-Type. The Eagle is better looking than the E-Type, only very slightly, but that much difference. The Futurista isn't as good looking as the standard car, I don't think. But that's just me. I'm just like old classic cars.
Okay, so that finishes on Lancia, and now we've got Land Rover with the Land Rover Defender Works V8.
Yep, so the 70th birthday of the Defender. This is the old body Defender, not the new one, not the modern one. This is the old big boxy one. They thought, right, let's send it off with a bang. And I think this was just before the release of the modern new Defender. They thought, let's stick a V8 in the front, 400 horsepower, shall we? Cool. That's basically what they did.
That's fair. Right, then we've got the Land Rover Series 3 pickup, which is a V8.
Yep, so the reason I would want a V8 is because the 4-cylinder version is the slowest moving vehicle I've ever seen in my life, basically. I'd love a pickup truck. I've actually got one on the shelf behind the camera, a blue one. That I absolutely adore, that little thing. I'd actually have one in that colour as well. A pickup truck one, because they're not big American pickups. So just basically the Series 3 Land Rover with a bed on the back. Not a very big car, really. They did a 2.25 litre one, 2.25 4-cylinder petrol. It took 29 seconds to get from 0 to 60. Top speed of 68 miles an hour, which is incredibly slow. That's nearly twice the Jeep Grand Wagoneer, and I slated that for being slow.
That's true.
The V8 did 16.9, so it was massively improved, which is around about the Wagoneer's territory version on that. So it's not too bad. And considering it's 70s, it's considering the Wagoneer's 20 years younger, it's fair enough. The V8 could do just over 80 mile an hour top end, so yeah, it's not too bad. But that's why I'd have a V8, because the 4-cylinder one is so slow. It's just unnecessarily slow.
And then we've got Range Rover, the classic model.
Classic Range Rover, the Mark 1 from the 70s. And I always like the ones that are faster, because they did up to 4.5 litre V8 one, actually. But I'd actually have an original 3.5, the slow one, because for me, that's the one that I fell in love with when I first ever watched Top Gear Bolivia Special. And I saw that, and when Horizon 4 came out, and I started to fall in love with it even more, I thought, I love the Rover V8, because the thing with the Rover V8 is it's heavily tunable. They're not very reliable, but if you look after them, they'll last forever. They're dead cheap to run, dead cheap to fix, dead cheap to tune. You can get 200 horsepower out of them like that. And when they're only 135, so it was really slow, but with a couple of mods, you could get that engine without blowing up in one way, shape or form, upwards of 300 horsepower. The actual engine featured in the Lotus Esprit V8, which remained in production until 2002, and that had 2 turbochargers slapped on, and it produced just shy of 350 horsepower. That was a near 180 mile an hour car. So in one way, shape or form, that engine could be tuned really highly. And you could have a baby SVR, really. There's a lot of companies who do kits for them, where you can put LS3 V8s, Corvette engines in, or put big modern V8s in and stuff like that. So either way, you've got loads of capability. Basically, what you've got is you've got the world you've oyster with the classic Range Rover. That's basically what it is. It's just a massive template for whatever you want to do. You can go absolutely wild. I keep mine completely stock, and then I buy a second one and do it up probably, because they're that good to do up and tune. That's why I love them. But yeah, my classic Range.
Right, then we're going on to that was obviously really, really Land Rover or whatever. So we're going on to back to Ireland, the Lexus LFA.
If somebody ever said to me, define Concorde as a car, I would say it's the LFA. Not the Veyron. I know the Veyron, everyone will say, oh, but the Veyron because it was the first car to do over 400 kilometres an hour. But really, to be honest, the McLaren F1 did 240 and at some point would have hit it. Speed isn't why Concorde was famous, really.
No.
As well as it was a big aspect, but the thing is it was different, stood out, and it will never be seen again. The Veyron we've seen again. We've seen the Chiron, we've had the SSC, they had Hennessy's, we've had Koenigsegg, we've had McLaren go over 250 again. We've had everybody's had a stab at the top speed race. But the thing with the LFA is you will never see a car like that ever again. Now everyone will be like, oh, it's just like a normal car. It's not. The way that car feels and the way it captures the GT experience mixed with supercar performance is incredible. The V10 is a masterpiece. They made a V10 that fits in the space of a V8. Produced 552 horsepower, 4.8 litre, revs so quickly that it can't even have an analogue dial. Yeah. It revs from idle to the red line in 0.2 of a second or something stupid. Because it's so quick and the gear changes are so quick that it has to have an electronic speedo and rev counter because it physically cannot keep up with how quickly that thing revs. It's such a masterpiece, and the sad thing is, it'll never be seen again, especially from Lexus, because even the people who made that car, it's that good. They're unable to replicate that car. It is so good, which is really sad. But that's what it is. It's Concorde as a car for me.
That's fair.
Because I don't think it's not the best looking car in the world, actually, to be honest. And Concorde was probably one of the most beautiful planes. But the way it's just amazing how you look at it and you go, oh, it's a Lexus, it's going to be a stupid hybrid. No, it's just so out of the ordinary from that brand. And it was done over a long period of time. It took like 9 years for them to develop it. They lost money every time they sold one. Like they did with Concorde, every time they flew it, they lost money. It took years of development, and it came out as a 202 mile an hour GT car with that engine note, which I still think remains the greatest engine note of any production vehicle. Number 2 is the Eagle Speedster. And it has flaws. It doesn't have any cup holders. You can't connect your iPod to it. It's a bit of a faff. The seatbelt can't be done up. It's impossible to get your seatbelt in. But it has that defining little character aspect that makes it so fabulous. And Jeremy Clarkson, it still remains the greatest car that Jeremy Clarkson has ever driven to this day. And they are incredibly expensive. They were when they were new. They're 340 grand. The Gallardo was like 120, which gives you an equivalent. The Gallardo was ours first. You're looking at now was about 700 grand second hand.
Yikes.
Which is a lot of money for Lexus.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, staying on Lexus, we've got the Lexus GSF. Yeah, or GSF.
GSF. Basically, it's a space F, like the ISF. GSF, I actually don't like the RCF, the two-door.
No.
Sort of sports GT that they did. The GSF was basically a four-door version of this. However, in every single way, shape or form, firstly it's better looking. Actually, I've missed one out. I don't know at the end. It's better looking, more practical, and it was annoying. It was silly. It had stupid flaws. Like the sat-nav one wouldn't shut up. The infotainment's terrible because it's tied to Lexus. The infotainments are horrible. But it had what it was. The M5 and the E63 didn't have, which are much faster. They got over 600 horsepower. The Sal's got 470. This had naturally aspirated V8, which is something you never see anymore, and rear-wheel drive. Its rivals were turbocharged. They didn't sound as loud. They weren't as crazy, and they had four-wheel drive. Now this thing was just utterly crazy. But the thing is, Lexus can do that because the whole range is just hybrids and efficient cars. So they thought, all right, then let's go out crazy and do a big V8 saloon. So they did. Paid off because It's actually as good to drive as its rivals. It's just a bit of annoying to live with. But in all fairness, I'd rather live with the annoyance and have that character aspect than the rest of the cars. Which for me, the most important thing for me is character when it comes to cars. Because it's not, I don't give a toss how fast they are. That's not important. Yeah. It's what they're like as a concept. Basically what you are, you and your car are sort of mates. That's what you'll find. And you can't, AM5 can't be a good friend. It can't. The Lexus GSF can, because it's got that. You get frustrated with it, like you do with mates and stuff. That's what it's like. But then you're like, okay, I forgive you, because it will do a massive drift and be dead loud, and you'll just have an absolute blast with it. That's what they are. But I'm going to add another one on, which is the Lexus LC500 convertible, which is beautiful and has actually the same engine as that 5-litre V8 rear drive. But the only downside I have is it has a 10-speed automatic, 10-speed gearbox. Why do you need 10 gears? That's too many.
That's a bit over.
Way too many.
Yeah, that's a bit overdone.
It is overdone. But other than that, flipping thing is drop dead gorgeous. Big V8 GT convertible car. God, Lexus can design some cars that. I mean, when they pull it off and make a good looking car like the LFA and the GSF and the LC500 convertible. In fact, the coupe is beautiful as well. It looks sensational. I'd have a burgundy dark red LC500 convertible with the V8. You can actually only get it as a V8, which you get because of the roof mechanism, they can't stick the rear motors in for the hybrid. It's only a V8 convertible. It's a gorgeous car. Anyway, there's no other Lexuses I like.
Yes, exactly. So then we've got the Lister Stealth.
Oh, right. Lister Stealth. Yeah. Have you ever heard of the Jag F-Pace?
Yes.
Basically that. And Lister are a famous tuning company of Jag from the olden days. And they went, oh, we'll do an F-Pace SVR. So they got the F-Pace SVR, which is a big V8 one. Yeah. And they thought, let's see if it was engineered by the beast or the devil. Because it's got 666 brake horsepower. Mm-hmm. And is the closest we've ever got for an SUV to get to 200 miles an hour. It does 195 miles an hour. So it's 63.5 seconds. And it's... Bearing in mind the F-Pace SVR is already a loud car. It's got the JLR's big 5-litre supercharged V8. You know, the one that's in the XJR 575 and the F-Type. And it's basically you'll wake up a whole county. Yeah. This has had an exhaust job on top of that engine. So you can probably guess how flipping awesome and loud this car sounds. Wow. That's basically what it is. It's incredibly cool little car. As an SUV, I don't like SUVs. Yeah. But if somebody said buy one, I'd probably get a Lister Stealth. I actually did a video on SUVs I like, and that didn't feature. But that's because it's a tuned car. It's a tuning car, not a... Because I don't like the F-Pace, which means I wouldn't have the tuned version. Yeah. Basically. But I did put the Alpino XB7 in, so I'm being a bit hypocritical though. But I actually do quite like the standard X7. But I just... I didn't put it in, but it's not in my top... I wouldn't say it's in my top 10. But I still actually... It's just crazy. It's better than the Urus.
Yeah, well, obviously.
Because if you go down the pub and say, oh, what are you driving? You go, I'm driving a Lister Stealth. Sounds better than going, I'm driving a Urus. It sounds a bit itchy. Yeah. Very anus.
Yeah, it's body part.
It's very biologically. It's like body part.
It is a biological.
It's not a nice name. Even if you don't say the word, if you say the word, oh, I'm driving a Stealth. Yeah. That sounds so much better than Urus.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Doesn't it? Like.
So, I mean.
So.
Yeah. Right, and then we're going on to Lotus with the Lotus Evora GT430.
I've looked through these Lotuses before. Didn't even know those on there. GT430, so the Lotus Evora, the first version, which is basically just an Evora with a V6 and 400 horsepower. So that's in the tin.
Fair. Yeah. Right, and then we've got the Lotus Exige Cup 430.
So it's actually a better car than the Evora, but I think the Evora is slightly better looking. It's the it's the fastest version of the Exige done. The Exige S. 430 horsepower again, same engine and system as the Evora. They share parts anyway. And does about, I think, 0-60s down to 3.2, which is incredibly fast for a car with the engine from a four-door saloon built by Toyota. It's got a Toyota Camry engine, and it can do 0-60 just over 3 seconds with a manual gearbox. Crazy. Because it's light. Lightness is very key to making cars fast, not just outright power. It's only got 430 horsepower. When does a 430 horsepower car do 0 to 60 in 3.2 seconds? Never. And the Evora GT430 does it in 3.8. That's still flipping rapid.
So,
The slowest Exige on sale at the minute does it in 3.9.
well, smashed it. Right, we've got the Lotus Evora GTE.
Yeah, this is the old gen Evora before the GT430, or the Evora 400 it was called. I think it's just basically a slightly more powerful version of the last gen, but it sort of looks a bit like a GT430 with the wing and sort of racing car aspects. Good looking car though.
Okay. Then we've got the Lotus Esprit V8.
I mentioned this bad boy before. This was in Top Gear's final special, the Patagonia special, with the 90 Bentley Mustang. Could you believe the British car, built by a company who are very famous for their unreliability, with the Rover V8, didn't suffer a single issue? It suffered all the least issues in the whole Top Gear challenge. The Porsche, it's designed by Porsche for Pete's sake, broke down more times than the Lotus Esprit V8 because it was a good. It was just well looked after by James May, but it's quick, good looking, mid-engined, rear drive, manual gearbox, proper sports car, Ferrari killing sports car because at the time with the 348, which I saw one the other day actually, way faster than that. I think it is Lotus's greatest in-house car. They've done some tunes which are better, for example the Carlton, and the Cortina was very good as well, and the Talbot's and the Lotus. But the in-house car that Lotus have built themselves out of bits of Vauxhall, Renault and Citroën, as this one was, it is the greatest car they've ever built. End of story. No argue. You can't even argue. It's a V8 Ferrari rival by a British company, built in Norfolk.
Right, then you've got the Lotus Esprit S1.
Original. Very famous for being a Bond car.
Yes.
The one that was a submarine. The
Wet
white
Ellie.
one. He also drove an Esprit Turbo as well. I think an S2 or an S3. Slightly later one. But this is the original standard 4-cylinder mid-engined, obviously, Esprit S1. The classic, which is worth absolute fortune now. Obviously because of its fame.
I was going to say, I don't think
as well.
Bond's helped it. Wet Nelly in Bond.
Yeah, but even the
Roger
V8
Moore.
ones, the big V8s are worth an absolute bomb now in good night.
So, yeah.
And they weren't in Bond.
Right, okay, then we've got the Lotus Elise S1.
Yep, classic. You know, the original standard Elise. The one with the 4 lights at the back. It was quite a bit fat. It looked like a fat rear end, but it was actually tiny. The one that you had to be about 5'3" to get in, basically. That original one of that. Awesome car. One of the all-time greats. Just end of story, it is.
Then we've got the Lotus Elan S1.
I love an Elan. Elans are so cute. You can stick them in your pocket. They're so small. Adorable. They've only got like 100 horsepower, but they're rapid. Love them. Little cute little thing.
Fair. Then we've got the Lotus Elite.
The Lotus Elite, very unknown sort of little car. A bit older than the Elan, I think. And yeah, it was basically about 80 horsepower, 75 horsepower. It was a very good looking little car, really cute. I think they did an estate version as well, which was really weird and random. What the hell? Like, it's crazy. But yeah, I sort of like it in a weird way, so I'd actually have one because I think they're quite adorable.
Right, and then we've got the Lynk&Co 03 Siam.
Yes.
03.
Right, so basically, Lynk&Co are a Chinese company owned by the Geely Group, who own Volvo, but this actually uses Volvo bits. So underneath it's a Volvo V60 or an S60. So it's the same front differential, same gearboxes, blah blah blah. However, Cyan are Volvo's BTCC racing team.
Okay.
And Lynk&Co's. They both do BTCC.
Okay.
The Lynk&Co 03 Cyan then is obviously a BTCC car that is road legal. It's not fully in production yet, I don't think. However, already this car has set a Nürburgring lap record for the fastest ever production front-wheel drive vehicle.
Okay.
And a Nürburgring lap record for the fastest ever 4-door saloon car in the world.
Okay.
Because, and I can't get my head around this, because normally a front-wheel drive car with loads of power will just go and just understeer and go into a tree. How does this one work then? With 521 brake horsepower through the front wheels. How the hell does that work?
That's a lot of power for front wheels.
I know.
That's
That's a hell of a lot. It's going to do the steering and control. The Vauxhall Vectra VXR, when that came out, with 276 horsepower. I know they didn't do anything to the diff, they just left it alone. That was one of the worst handling cars ever built, front-wheel drive cars, because of how bad it understeered, and that had 276.
Double that. Wow, that's mental.
Now the other thing is torque steer, whereas you might not understeer, but when you sit in a car, you leave the steering wheel alone, you accelerate. If the car stays straight, that's got a good balance of torque.
Okay.
It won't veer off. If you plant the accelerator and your car suddenly veers left or suddenly veers right, that's because it's got torque steer and it steers itself.
Right, yeah.
Because of how much torque there is. It's going to have at least 500 pound-feet, which is a hell of a lot of torque.
Yeah.
Now, how the hell is that car going to firstly not torque steer and firstly not understeer? Somehow it doesn't because it gets around the Nürburgring without crashing.
Well, yeah. Some good engineering there. Isn't it?
That is a fabulous piece of design engineering. First, it also looks good, and you can probably guess what colour it is. Cyan. It's blue.
Oh, yeah. It's in its name. It's cyan.
Yeah. But it's a very cool car, and also, little fact, it is. It's not because it's not a full production car yet. When it will be is the highest BHP per litre of any production car on sale. Because it's a 2 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder. That's the other thing.
Wow.
It's a 2 litre 4-cylinder with 1 turbo. How the hell does that engine get 521 horsepower? Especially because it's a road car. Obviously, the racing car doesn't have any emissions and stuff. So fair enough, you can get 520. That's dead easy for the BTCC cars. But bear in mind, this has to be restricted against laws. And it's rigorously tested, and it's all emissions, and it's got to have acceptable MPG and everything like that. How the hell, with all of the laws we have now, does that get 521 from a 2 litre turbo? Incredible piece of design engineering that is.
Fair, Sue.
I do not know how they did that, but Lynk&Co, you have made one fabulous little car.
Indeed, fair. So, yeah. I mean, look, we've got it fair way through L. Yeah, right. So
I think my phone's going to die.
Yeah.
Well, we're starting with a good one next time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the thing is, M is an absolute massive.
Yeah, it's going to die.
Yeah, it's an absolute massive one.
So we're going to leave it for
we'll start with M next time.
M
is
probably P.
Yes, maybe P.
P's not actually that big.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see how far we get into it next time. But that was it J to L J to L we did. Wow. That's L was pretty big.
L was pretty big,
yeah.
Well.
Exactly. I'll say an M.
There were some highlights in there that we had to.
Of course.
Like the Lynk&Co. I do not know how that works, but I want one to find out.
It's some interesting mechanics of the.
The good news is Lynk&Co are coming to the UK this year or next year, so hopefully we get the 03 Cyan. Hopefully they go, let them have them, let them have some, and hopefully the UK will get some of those masterpieces. Well, even if they're left-hand drive only, it doesn't really concern me.
Oh, why?
Just deal with it.
Innit? Just for stuff like that, does it matter?
Yeah.
So yeah. Right, guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to like, and if you really enjoyed it, make sure to subscribe. But guys, hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you go watch the other ones, check out the rest of the playlist, so on. Should be on screen around now. So either way, make sure you go watch the old videos, the ones that are to come. And I hope you've enjoyed this one. So hope you enjoyed the video. Catch you on another one. Goodbye.